From Storm Tracker 6, this is Forecast First, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
It has been a foggy and cool day across mid-Michigan. Numbers have improved. Visibility is getting a little better, but still fairly low. Jackson at 2.5 miles, 1 mile Coldwater, 3 miles in Lansing. And temperatures are near the freezing mark, so any fog could create a little bit of icy travel out there. Use caution. The fog should begin to lift over the next several hours. Across the state, 20s and teens to the north, and there was quite a bit of snow that moved through northern lower Michigan today in the tune of 5 to 7 inches of snowfall. Thankfully, no snow in the forecast for us tonight, but we do have some freezing rain in the forecast to talk about later this week. Temperature-wise for tonight, shouldn't be too terribly cold. We'll dip into the lower 20s by early tomorrow morning. It's kind of a cold start, and we've got some cold weather during the day on the way as well. 6 News at 6 starts right now.
WLNS is here for you with 6 News at 6.
New tariffs on Canada and Mexico have been delayed by a month, but they still hang over the heads of Michigan's biggest industries. And it is our top story at 6. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sherry Jones.
And I'm Siobhan Klepfer. President Donald Trump promised new tariffs of 25% on goods from Canada and Mexico, and they were originally supposed to take effect this past Saturday.
But the tariffs on Michigan goods, Mexican goods that is, were put off until March 1st. And today we learned the tariffs on Canadian goods were delayed until then as well.
Canada and Mexico are vital parts of Michigan's auto and agriculture industries. As our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic reports tonight, elected leaders here in Michigan are worried.
If there are tariffs, there's no good news for Governor Gretchen Whitmer and 3 major industries. The auto industry could take a hit. Thousands of Michigan farmers could take a hit. And the state budget, it would definitely take a hit with lost revenue. Well, the president has been talking about tariffs in Canada and China. Back here from the governor on down, there are fears that run deep concerning the auto industry.
Your worst nightmare is that the Trump administration will cost UAW jobs in your state.
I mean, that's a nightmare scenario for all of us.
Here's what happens. With the federal government imposing tariffs, if they do, on every auto part that comes in from Canada, well, the cost of that part goes up. And of course, the cost for building the car goes up. And that means the price of the car for buyers goes up. All of this bad news. The governor says we need to preserve the profitable back and forth between Michigan and Canada. And if that does not happen, it
will make it even more difficult for our auto industry because, you know, the cars that we buy that are Michigan made are back and forth. There are pieces coming from all parts of North America and China, for that matter, that we've got to be mindful of.
Meanwhile, Michigan farmers are already worried about losing migrant farm workers under the president's aggressive deportation program. Now, with more tariffs, if they come, that could impact the price you pay in the grocery store for the food you eat.
The tariffs on agriculture, on agricultural products and food products, will ultimately lead to price increases. That's a concern every Michigan family should be aware of.
And farmers worry there may be less food to sell, which reduces the chances of being more financially successful. That is, lower profits for farmers.
And ultimately, that does hurt the farmer's opportunity and rural businesses' opportunity to be successful and grow the economy in the long term.
The third potential loser in all this, Michigan citizens. If there are fewer dollars flowing into state coffers, that means fewer dollars for state services and programs from education on down. The governor will tell lawmakers this week that potential tariffs could reduce the income coming into state coffers. Meanwhile, the president says there may or may not be any pain for Americans, but in the end of this tariff policy fight, quote, it'll all be worth the price that must be paid. And while the governor says she's trying to find more common ground with the new president, tariffs is not likely to be one of them. Here for you in Lansing, Tim Skubic, 6 News.
As we mentioned, the tariff battle between the U.S. and Canada has been put on hold for now. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says both countries have come to an agreement on border security.
Zach Priest is here for you now with a look at what has prompted the fight.
Thanks. Within the last hour, Prime Minister Trudeau announced that Canada will be enacting a $1.3 billion plan to increase border security, with a focus on stopping the flow of fentanyl into the United States. The Trump administration claims that Canada has played a central role in the flood of illegal drugs into the U.S. However, statistics provided by Border Patrol tell a much different story. U.S. Border Patrol says the southern border has a much bigger drug problem than the northern one. Last year, more than 21,000 pounds of fentanyl were seized at the southwest border. That compares with only 43 pounds seized at the Canadian border. There were also 184 times less methamphetamine seized at the northern border and nearly 13 times less cocaine seized. Canada and Mexico are now both devoting significant resources to border security, but experts aren't sure this is the answer.
We'll see how effective that actually is at stemming the flow of, fentanyl and other illegal drugs into the United States. Obviously, the U.S. has a long history of trying to apply supply-side approaches to combat drugs, and that has not always been the most effective.
Canada's increased border security includes nearly 10,000 personnel who are or will be on the border, a joint U.S. and Canada task force, and officially recognizing cartels as terrorists. Back to you.
Thank you, Zach. Well, the White House is also cracking down on immigration from other countries, especially through the southern border.
Those migrants, documented or not, have a major presence in American life.
And today, communities around the country organized a Day Without Immigrants, meant to show the role of immigrants in everyday life. Pablo's Mexican restaurant in Lansing shut down for the day. Signs on the front door in both English and Spanish said the move was made, quote, in solidarity with our immigrant brothers and sisters.
Well, new tonight, a man is dead following a house fire in Jackson that happened overnight.
Nick Simon was at the scene today where he spoke with the people who came to remember the victim. He's here for you now with their story.
Sherry, Siobhan, police have not officially released the identity of the victim yet, so we'll keep his name out of our reporting for now. But I talked with a man who says that he turned on the TV this morning and saw his best friend's house had burned down. He rushed over to see if it was real.
And I said, that's him, I gotta go. I left and come straight over here. And he was a wonderful man. He's a good friend and a hard worker, and he's an American. He loved his country. And I don't know why, I'm just devastated by it.
Michael Fisher tells me he's known the victim pretty much his whole life, and they stayed best friends after graduating from Northwest High School in Jackson. When he saw the house, his first thought was this was probably an accidental fire, and it was something that he was trying to warn his friend about.
I seen his mental capacity just go away, and he wasn't precautious about things, you know what I'm saying?
Police responded to the fire at around 2:30 in the morning. When they arrived, they found a woman outside the home, suffering from smoke inhalation. Then they learned that there was another person inside. Firefighters went in and pulled him out, and he was pronounced dead a short time later. This tragedy has left a burn scar on this quiet neighborhood, and Michael tells me it's also left a hole in his heart.
He was a great man. He was a Boy Scout. He went to work every day. He did everything you're supposed to do, you know, and I just I don't understand this. I love him to death. He was my best friend.
At one point, the fire got so big that crews had to be called in from two other departments to help. Investigators are still working to find out exactly what caused the fire, and the woman involved is still receiving treatments at the hospital. Back to you.
All right, Nick, thank you. The firefighters helped rescue a woman from a rollover crash west of Lansing today. Take a look. It happened this morning at the intersection of Saginaw Street and Bon Air Road. That's in West Lansing, just outside the city limits near Waverly. Police say the woman was the only person in the car that rolled over and no other vehicles were involved. Nobody was hurt, but the cause of this crash is still under investigation.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Weather First, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
We've had fog and little drizzle around the area today. Our attention now begins to shift more towards some freezing rain potential as we head into Wednesday night and Thursday morning. Doppler radar is all clear now. There still could be a little patchy drizzle, and with temperatures near the freezing mark, watch out for a little patchy freezing drizzle this evening. Shouldn't be a widespread problem, and temperatures overall will be cold tonight. As we zoom out just a bit, lots of cloud cover across northern lower Michigan where we had all snow earlier today. Meanwhile, we're kind of in between storm systems, but as we look at precision cast, I think we're going to see quiet weather for our Tuesday. Temperature-wise, it will be cold, top out in the upper 20s, and probably lots of cloud cover around. High pressure is going to begin to zip to the east, but it's going to leave some cool air in place across the region. That'll be important because by Wednesday evening, a few snowflakes, maybe a few sleet pellets begin to break out, and then it looks like a decent chance of sleet and maybe some freezing rain. The better chances for freezing rain will be the further south you go in mid-Michigan towards the state line, but anywhere in the area could see a light glaze. Got to watch out for that. And then, of course, snow to our north. The good news is it's going to get out of here early on Thursday morning, so travel-wise, probably 10 or so Thursday evening till around 7 or 8 on, or I should say 10 or 11 on Wednesday evening into the morning hours, 7 or 8 on Thursday, and then things will improve as we warm into the mid-30s. Total ice accumulation potential traced to maybe as much as 1/10 of an inch. Some spots may get a little bit over 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain. My biggest hope out of this is that we'll stay with just some snow showers and sleet and not transition over to the freezing rain, but it does look like that is certainly a distinct possibility. So we check out the temperatures. We're sitting in the lower 30s across mid-Michigan this afternoon. Skyview Network, McLaren Cam. Visibility is in good shape, so the fog is lifted somewhat. Temperature at 32 degrees, 700ths of an inch of rainfall today. In Grand Ledge this evening, also visibility not a huge issue. We're at 31 degrees. Our rainfall total only at 200ths of an inch, so kind of nuisance precipitation. It's improved quite a bit in Jackson with the visibility, but it was quite low earlier, down to 3/4 of a mile just about an hour ago. 32 the current temperature. Today's high up to 44 degrees, a little on the warm side. And in Hillsdale it was similar with a high temperature of 47 degrees. We're at 37 now. And our rainfall total also fairly light at 2/100ths of an inch. Tonight's forecast, 21 the overnight low with mostly cloudy skies. Winds should be light. Then as we head into tomorrow, temperatures will start out in the 20s and finish in the 20s. Not going to budge a whole lot tomorrow. Lots of clouds around, and we'll drop back into the mid-20s by 9 o'clock tomorrow night. Over the next 6 days, Wednesday, wintry mix moves in late. Thursday morning commute could be impacted by freezing rain, so a weather-aware day there. 34 in the afternoon. Over the weekend, a storm system could bring some snow to the area Saturday into early Sunday. Temperatures both days near 30. The 6+6 days, some snow showers next week, nothing big happening. And you see, this is your reminder, I'm starting today, Siobhan. Valentine's Day, it's coming up.
So make plans, make those reservations.
Your husband Ben told me to remind you of that, and remind you often.
That's right, that heart is just, glowing.
Can't miss that.
Right, no, you can't. Thanks, David.